They say, you never really lose someone who was meant for you. But what they don't tell you is, sometimes you lose yourself trying to hold on to someone who was never meant to stay. And by the time they come back, you're no longer the same person they left behind. My name is Amara, and this isn't just a story about love. This is a story about timing, growth, and what happens when someone realizes your value after you've already learned to live without them. Because he did come back, just not when I needed him to, and definitely not when I was still willing to wait. But before that moment, before the message, before the apology, before the I miss you, there was a version of me who would have given him another chance without thinking. A version of me who believed history meant something, who believed connection was enough, who believed that if two people found their way back to each other, it had to mean something deeper. And for a long time, I was that woman, the one who stayed open, the one who kept understanding, the one who gave people time to become what they said they would be, even when it cost me peace, even when it cost me clarity, even when deep down I knew something wasn't right. Because love can make you do that. It can make you hold on to potential instead of reality. It can make you remember who someone used to be instead of seeing who they've become. And that's exactly what I did with him. His name was Daniel. And unlike the last time, this didn't start with confusion. It started with history. We already knew each other, already shared moments, memories, something that felt real, which made it easier to ignore the parts that weren't, because when you've already experienced the good side of someone, you keep hoping it will come back, even when everything in front of you is telling you otherwise. He wasn't consistent, not in the way that mattered. He showed up, then disappeared, said the right things, then did the opposite, made promises, then delayed them. And every time I started to pull away, he would come back just enough to keep me from leaving completely, not fully present, not fully gone, just enough. And that just enough is the most dangerous place to be, because it keeps you hopeful without ever making you secure. And for a while, I stayed in that space, telling myself he just needed time, telling myself he would figure it out, telling myself what we had was worth waiting for. But the truth is, I wasn't waiting for him. I was waiting for a version of him that didn't exist anymore. And deep down, I think I knew that. I just wasn't ready to let go of what it used to be. Until one day, something changed. Not dramatically, not all at once, just quietly. I stopped checking my phone as much, stopped rereading old messages, stopped making excuses for his absence. And for the first time, I started asking myself a different question. Not why is he like this, but why am I still accepting this? And that question was the beginning of everything changing. Because once you start seeing things clearly, you can't go back to pretending they're okay. And slowly, very slowly, I started choosing something else. Peace, clarity, myself. And the moment I did that, everything shifted. Not him, me. And that's when he noticed. That's when he came back. But by then, it was already too late. Wait, I will tell you what to do. He didn't come back the way I imagined he would. No grand gesture. No dramatic apology. No moment that made everything make sense. Just a message. Simple. Unexpected. Familiar. Hey, I've been thinking about you. And for a second, just a second, everything paused. Not because I didn't expect it, but because a part of me had been waiting for it longer than I wanted to admit. It's strange how one message can take you back to a version of yourself you thought you had already outgrown. Because suddenly, I remembered everything. The good moments, the laughter, the connection I once believed in. And for a brief moment, it felt like nothing had changed. Like maybe this was the moment everything would finally make sense. But then, reality caught up. Because this wasn't the first time he had come back. It was just the first time I wasn't in the same place. Before, I would have replied immediately, overthought every word, read into every pause, hoped that this time he meant it. But now, I just stared at the message, not confused, not excited, just aware. Aware of what this was, aware of what it wasn't, because people don't usually come back when they're ready. They come back when they feel you leaving. And this time, I had already left. Not physically, but emotionally. And that changes everything. Still, I replied, not because I wanted him back, but because I wanted to see if anything about him had actually changed. Hey, I said. Nothing more. No emotion. No invitation. Just neutral. And for the first time, I noticed something different. He was trying. Not perfectly. Not smoothly. But intentionally. He asked questions. Checked in. Stayed present. Things he never did before. And part of me, the part that remembered who he used to be, wanted to believe it. Wanted to believe this was growth. That maybe he had finally become the person I had been waiting for. But another part of me, the part that had learned the hard way, wasn't convinced. Because change is easy to show in the beginning. Consistency is where the truth lives. So I didn't rush. I didn't lean in. I didn't give him the version of me he used to have access to. I watched. I listened. I paid attention to the small things, the pauses, the effort, the energy behind his words. The energy behind his words. Because this time, I wasn't looking for potential. I was looking for proof. And slowly, the pattern started to reveal itself. Not all at once. Not in a way that was obvious. But in the little things. The slight delays. The moments of inconsistency. The effort that came in waves. Not instability. And that's when I realized something. He didn't come back because he had changed. He came back because I had. Because I wasn't chasing him anymore. Because I wasn't available the way I used to be. Because for the first time, he felt what it was like to lose access to me. And that made him try. But trying is not the same as being ready. And attention is not the same as intention. And for the first time, I could see the difference. Clearly, without emotion blurring it, without hope rewriting it. Just truth. And the truth was simple. He came back, but not as the man I needed, just as the man I had already outgrown. And the hardest part? A part of me still cared, still remembered, still felt something. But this time, feeling something wasn't enough, because I had already learned what happens when you choose emotion over clarity, and I wasn't going back there again. So I stayed where I was, not moving closer, not pulling away, just observing, because this time I wasn't the one waiting. He was, and he didn't even realize it yet. At some point, he noticed. Not immediately, not in a way that was obvious, but slowly, the dynamic began to shift. Because for the first time, I wasn't leaning in. I wasn't trying to understand him. I wasn't filling in the gaps he left behind. And that changes everything. Because when you stop chasing, the other person has to decide if they're willing to move forward on their own. And that's exactly what he started doing. The messages became longer, more consistent, more intentional. He called more, checked in more, showed up in ways he never used to. And if this had happened before, I would have believed it. I would have seen it as everything I had been waiting for. Proof that he finally understood. Proof that he finally changed. Proof that maybe this time it would be different. That something in me wasn't reacting the same way anymore. Because growth doesn't just change what you accept. It changes what you believe. And this time, I didn't just see effort. I saw timing. And the timing told me everything. Because where was this version of him when I needed clarity? Where was this consistency when I was questioning my worth? Where was this effort when I was the one waiting? And that's when it clicked. This wasn't transformation. It was reaction. He wasn't showing up because he became ready. He was showing up because he felt me leaving. And there's a difference. A big one. Because when someone truly changes, it doesn't depend on your distance. It doesn't depend on your silence. It shows up consistently, whether you're pulling away or not. And what he was giving me still came in waves, still had gaps, still felt like something I had to monitor. And I was done doing that, done analyzing, done hoping, done translating actions. That should have been clear. So one day, I asked him something, not out of emotion, not out of frustration, just clarity. What changed? There was a pause, not as long as before, but long enough to say more than words ever could. I don't want to lose you, he said. And for the first time, I heard it differently, not as love, not as commitment, but as fear, because he didn't say he was ready. He didn't say he chose me. He said he didn't want to lose me. And that told me everything I needed to know, because not wanting to lose someone is not the same as choosing them. It's not the same as being ready for them. It's not the same as building with them. It's just attachment. And I had already learned what happens when you build something on that. So I didn't argue. I didn't explain. I didn't try to make him understand. Because clarity doesn't need convincing. It just needs acceptance. And for the first time, I accepted it fully, without excuses, without hope rewriting it. Just truth. And the truth was simple. He came back. He tried. But he still wasn't what I needed. And more importantly, I wasn't who I used to be. So I made a choice. Not dramatic. Not emotional. Just final. I think we want different things, I said. And the silence that followed felt different. Not heavy, not painful, just clear. Because for once, I wasn't waiting for his response. I wasn't hoping he would say something that would change my mind. I was already decided. And that's when it really ended. Not when he left. Not when things became uncertain. But when I finally chose not to stay. And for the first time, walking away didn't feel like a loss. It felt like alignment. Like everything inside me finally matched the truth I had been avoiding. And that's the thing no one tells you. Letting go isn't always about losing someone. Sometimes it's about finding yourself again. And this time, I didn't look back. Not because I didn't care, but because I finally understood. Caring is not enough to stay for a while. Nothing happened. No sudden change. No dramatic moment. No instant happiness. Just peace. The kind of peace that feels unfamiliar at first. Because when you've spent so long in confusion, clarity can feel quiet. Almost too quiet. There were no mixed signals. No late night overthinking. No wondering where I stood. Just space. And in that space, I started to notice something. Myself. The things I ignored before. The boundaries I didn't have. The patterns I kept repeating. And for the first time, I wasn't trying to fix anything. I wasn't trying to understand someone else. I was understanding me. What I needed. What I deserved. What I would never accept again. And slowly, that changed everything. Not overnight. Not perfectly. But intentionally. I became more aware of how people showed up. Not what they said, but what they did. Because words had fooled me before. Consistency never did. And that's when it happened. Not when I was looking for it. Not when I was trying to replace anything. But when I was finally okay, on my own. I met him. And this time, it didn't feel like confusion. It didn't feel like guessing. It didn't feel like something I had to figure out. It felt clear from the beginning. Not perfect, but certain. He didn't overwhelm me with words. Didn't try to impress me. Didn't make promises he couldn't keep. He just showed up. Consistently. Naturally. Without hesitation. And that alone felt different. Because I wasn't used to that. I was used to effort, coming in waves. Attention that faded. Presence that disappeared. But this stayed. And for a moment, I caught myself waiting for it to change. Waiting for the inconsistency. Waiting for the confusion. Waiting for the version of love I had learned to expect. But it never came. And that's when I realized something. This is what it feels like. When you're not chasing clarity. When you're not asking questions you're afraid to hear the answers to. When you're not trying to prove your worth to someone. This is what it feels like. When someone is sure about you. And the most surprising part, I didn't feel the need to hold on tightly. I didn't feel anxious. I didn't feel uncertain. I felt calm, secure, at ease. And that's when I knew this wasn't just different. It was right. Not because it was perfect, but because it didn't require me to become someone else just to keep it. I didn't have to shrink. Didn't have to overgive. Didn't have to question myself. I could just be. And that changed everything. Because when you've experienced confusion, clarity doesn't just feel better. It feels safe. And maybe that's the lesson I needed all along. The right person doesn't make you wonder. They don't make you wait. They don't make you question your place in their life. They show you consistently, clearly, without you having to ask. So, no, I didn't lose anything. I gained something. A new standard, a new understanding, a new version of myself that no longer accepts what once felt normal. And for the first time, I wasn't afraid of where this was going, because I finally understood what real love is supposed to feel like. I wish I could say that once I found something real, everything became easy, that there were no doubts, no moments of hesitation, no parts of me that still remembered the past. But healing doesn't work like that, because even when something is right, you still carry what you learned from what was wrong. There were moments, quiet ones, where I caught myself waiting for the same patterns, waiting for the distance, the inconsistency, the silence. But it never came, and that was the part I had to get used to, because I had spent so long believing that love was something you had to figure out, that I didn't recognize it when it was finally clear. But he stayed the same, not just in the beginning, but over time, through normal days, through silence, through everything that usually reveals the truth. He didn't change, and slowly, I stopped expecting him to, because for the first time, I wasn't trying to prepare for disappointment. I was experiencing peace, real peace, not the kind that comes from temporary reassurance, but the kind that comes from consistency, from knowing without asking. And that's when I realized something. Love was never supposed to feel confusing. It was never supposed to make you question yourself. It was never supposed to leave you waiting for clarity. We just get used to that when it's all we've known. But once you experience something real, you can't unsee the difference. You can't go back to accepting less. And that's when everything changes. Not just how you love, but what you allow. Because now, I didn't just want love. I expected clarity. I expected consistency. I expected to be chosen, without hesitation. And the most powerful part? I wasn't afraid of losing it, because I understood something I didn't before. The right love doesn't make you feel replaceable. It doesn't make you question your value. It doesn't make you compete for a place that should already be yours. It simply meets you where you are and stays. And for the first time, I wasn't holding on out of fear. I was present, calm, certain. And in that moment, I thought about everything I had been through. The waiting, the confusion, the almost. And I didn't feel anger. I didn't feel regret. I felt clarity, because none of it was a waste. It was a lesson, a necessary one that taught me the difference between attention and intention, between being wanted and being chosen, between love that feels uncertain and love that feels safe. So, no, he didn't come back too late to hurt me. He came back too late to have access to the version of me that would have accepted less. And that made all the difference. Because in the end, this was never just about him, or even about the man who came after. It was about me, becoming someone who no longer waits to be chosen, who no longer explains away confusion, who no longer stays where love feels uncertain. And once you become that person, everything changes, because you don't just find better, you recognize it, and you keep it, without fear, without doubt, without losing yourself in it. And that's how I knew. This wasn't just another chapter. This was the beginning of something real. Not because of who I found, but because of who I became. And this time, I didn't have to ask if I was chosen. I already knew. And that is how my story finally made sense.